Hey folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter podcast. One of the things I see a lot with the beginners in our classes is this comparison for where they are versus others in the class. And this is natural, right? Especially if it's something brand new to us. We're going to say like, okay, well, what should I look like? What direction should I be going as far as like my training and my skill level? And then that's fine, right? In terms of kind of giving us a direction in ourselves. But there's a challenge there, right? Where if you continue playing this game of comparison, it can be detrimental, right? It can get to a point where it's no longer serving you. In fact, it's hindering you, where you start coming down on yourself a bit more, right? Oh, I'm not progressing as much as this person is. And I see this a lot with people that are in the same class, right? And that maybe they're spouses that started at the same time. Maybe it's people that are complete strangers initially, right? But you started at the same time, same week, around the same month or so. And you're going through the curriculum, going through the stripe testing and belt testing. And then there comes a point where there's maybe a convergence. I know I felt this myself when I was first learning karate, and there was a guy in there that was doing really well, and I just wasn't. I needed to take a couple of breaks or so, and when I'd come back, I'd see, now he's X belt, and I'm still Y belt. You know what I mean? Where I would start doing that comparison, and just kind of start getting down on myself. Oh my gosh, why didn't I stick with it or whatever? Now he's ahead of me. And it would affect my training. And luckily for me, I mean, I didn't really live there very long. I just good for him. He didn't take the breaks. He kept on going. And that's just, how it worked for both of us. And I can just go back to focusing on my training, right? But, that's not always the case where I can bounce out like that in my training. And I have to be vigilant, have that self-awareness so that I can come back to myself and say, hey, why are we here in the first place, right? Is it about comparing to others, or is it about being better in our skills, okay? So, and we see that a lot from other folks that are fairly popular, maybe celebrity levels, like, hey, don't compare yourself or whatever, right? But one thing that I do want to tack onto that, and I don't think I haven't heard it referred to a lot, is, don't compare yourself to other people, but just compare yourself to who you were yesterday, right? And I understand the intent behind that you want to focus on what you can do, right? So, hey, if you don't compare yourself to them, compare yourself to yourself, right? My challenge with that is it's still a comparison, right? And who you were yesterday, who you were a week ago, a month, 10 years ago, doesn't have anything to do with who you are in this moment. I mean, I look back 20 years ago when I started my martial arts journey. I was completely different, right? There's certain things that I could absolutely do much better back then compared to now. It would be very unfair of me to look back on that and say, wow, I can't do that anymore. So I'm going to feel bad about myself, right? But it's a completely different context, completely different time. I could say the same thing about myself a month ago, right? I was in a different space mentally, emotionally, physically. I can't compare myself to who I was back then because I'm continuously changing every second, every word out of my mouth. Whether it is apparent to me consciously or not, there's still a change happening there, right? There's still a distance that's being created between who I was then and who I am now. And having that comparison, I think it can be useful for like where I want to go, like giving me a direction to go, but getting it so that I need to get back to that level of fitness, or I need to be able to do this again, right? Maybe be able to do my head kicks, kick somebody in the head again. Going backwards, having that feeling of comparison back, I don't think that really serves me as much as, hey, what can I do right now? Look ahead in terms of a direction to go, and remember that the only thing that I can control is what I am doing right now. And if I'm focused on now, there is no comparison. And I can focus all of my energy, all of my senses to what I'm doing right now and doing the best that I can with the resources that I have right now. I use the example of, and it's fairly extreme with my students, where I say, what if you were in a car accident today, right? And just yesterday, you were able to walk and run and jump. And you say, Philip, that's kind of extreme. Absolutely, it's an extreme example. But given that, it's still such that making that comparison of, okay, now I'm in a hospital bed. Now I'm in a wheelchair. Now I'm on crutches. Now I'm using a cane. Comparing myself back to when I was fully able to do things, that's unfair and it doesn't serve, right? I have to do the best with what I got and keep looking forward, right? And this is something that applies not only to martial arts, right? I mean, it applies other areas of our life as well. Is this comparison game, not only with other people, comparing ourselves to their thing, especially with social media, right? We see a lot of people's highlight reels. So that's something that we need to focus back on ourselves. But again, if you look back at your own highlight reel, right? You look back in your history of your Instagrams or Facebook posts, you get those memories coming back from Facebook, right? Oh, wow, look at your life back then. And then you do a bit of a comparison, or this is what I looked like back then. Oh, gosh, I didn't have as much weight on me back then, right? I mean, it could be fun to go down memory lane like that, but once it starts getting to a point of comparison where it's detrimental to you doing the best that you can in the moment and finding a way to go forward or finding that direction for yourself, then I think the comparison, the looking back, to things that you've done in the past, that just probably has to go to the wayside. Hope that was helpful for you. This is Philip with the Everyday Fighter Podcast. Talk to you next time.